Hey, so I saw this really interesting article online. It was in regards to dieting, calorie counting specifically. Basically, if you don't know what calorie counting is, it basically says you're supposed to eat a certain amount of calories a day. If you eat more than that, you gain weight. If you eat less than that, you lose weight. So what people do is that they try to keep track of all the calories that they're eating throughout the day. They measure like everything, they weigh everything, and they write out how many calories they are having. And at the end of the day, if they're over, they know they're going to gain weight. If they're under, they know they're supposed to lose weight. But what's happening is that a lot of people are trying to count calories, and either A, they fail because it's really freaking annoying, or B, they hit their goals, but they're realizing they're not losing weight or they're not gaining weight if it's somebody that's trying to gain weight. So this article basically it mentions one guy that tries to do it and is failing, and it basically talks about a lot of different reasons why strictly calorie counting is not going to work. Um, Basically, what I believe is that there's a lot of food companies out there. I mean, like junk food, like cookies and whatever, that try to get you to buy their product, and they know that their stuff is high in calories, so they kind of try to shift the blame to you, like, oh, you should be careful with all the calories that you have, instead of saying, oh, our product is awful for you, and whatever, whatnot. So that's how I feel about calorie counting. Um, So basically, in this article, they talk about different reasons why calorie counting doesn't really work so well. Um, so the first thing that they talk about is a food can have a certain amount of calories, but your body won't be able to get all the calories from that. So as the example, they use almonds. Now they say that almonds, when you eat almonds, you lose about a third of the calories. So if you eat 100 calories worth of almonds, um, you will actually only gain around 66, 67 calories from it. And the reason that they say that that happens is because um, you know how plants have cell walls, and so basically within these cell walls they contain a little bit more calories in them, and our bodies aren't able to break down those cell walls far enough to be able to absorb the calories that are within them. So it's like calories, carbohydrates, proteins in there that our body isn't able to break down. Basically what they say is there's a couple of different ways to uh, break down that wall. Number one would be to cook the product. If you cook the almonds, like if you roast them, toast them, or whatever, um, that would help break down the cell walls. And two, chewing would be another way to like physically break down the cell walls. They also mentioned like processing food. Obviously, it's similar to chewing, but obviously we, like, as a country, we have a ton of processed food. So we have different means of processing, like grinding or like even like chemical breakdowns or whatever. Um, so basically, they did one study where they took two different sets of mice. One set of mice they gave raw peanuts, and another set of mice they, instead of just giving them raw peanuts, they roasted them and they ground them down to peanut butter. So obviously the second group had the more processed peanuts, and obviously they gave them the same amount. So um, what they found that was that the mice eating the raw peanuts, they were able to maintain like an okay weight, and then the other mice, they gained more weight because the food was more further broken down. Um, another thing they mentioned was for meat. if you have a well-done steak versus having a rare steak. The rare steak would actually, you'd be able to absorb less calories from it, while the cooked steak would be giving you more calories. It's the same reason. Like, the more you cook it, the more the cell walls. I'm pretty sure there's a difference between plant cell walls and animal cell walls, but you get what I mean. The cell walls break down further when you cook them. And then they also mentioned hamburgers. Hamburgers are obviously more processed than a steak, and so they will give you more calories than a steak would. So the guy that did that research, he was observing chimps in nature, and he said, "Oh, these chimps, they spend their life eating fruits, seeds, and like bugs, and compared to us, we cook our food. We have cooked foods." So he said, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna just try to eat the same kind of diet, like fruits and nuts." I'm not sure if he ate the bugs, but he found that as he was eating that kind of diet, he was feeling more hungry all the time, like he wasn't fully satisfied. So him and his team, they actually did a whole bunch of different research regarding the way cooking and processing food kind of like, I forgot the word that they use, but if like, let's say everything's tied up like this, like cooking and processing the food would slowly let the cells and whatever release their bonds and would really allow them to release more energy as you eat them. So that was one of the things they mentioned. Another thing they mentioned was the time that you eat. So it was something, I forgot the exact time. Let me see if I could find it real quick. It was something like, if the mice, they took one set of mice and fed them between like 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. or something like that, 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. And then they took another set of mice and they gave the same amount of food, but throughout the 24-hour period. So what happened was that the mice that ate between 9 and 5 p.m., so like early on, and within a reasonable amount of time of them being awake, they didn't gain as much weight as the ones that were fed throughout the 24-hour period. And actually, now that I see, it's a 24-hour period, so they might not have even gotten the right amount of sleep. So they basically are saying here that the mice that ate during the 24-hour period had their circadian rhythm, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, thrown off, and that caused the weight gain. And if you don't know, the circadian rhythm schedule is kind of like what determines when you should go to sleep. Like when the sun is out, and your body just kind of wants to be awake while the sun is out, and it wants to be asleep while the sun's down. So it manages all these different processes around sunlight. So the third thing that they mentioned, or fourth thing, I lost track, was gut bacteria. So they noticed that gut bacteria has an effect on weight, the amount of weight you can put on and take off. They mentioned that certain medications, when you're on medications, certain people report that they've gained weight by taking the medication, and they kind of found that that's based on the gut bacteria. The way they tested this was that they found two human twins. They purposely sought out like one twin that was obese and one twin that was thinner. And what they did was they took a gut bacteria sample from each twin. And what they did was they put that gut bacteria into mice, like two different sets of mice. That process, they didn't really mention in the article, but if you want to look up fecal matter transplant, that's what that is, and it's pretty disgusting. But they took the bacteria from the obese twin and put it in one set of mice, and they took the bacteria from the thinner twin, and they put it in the other set of mice. And what they found was that all the mice that had the obese bacteria in them, they each became obese, and I guess eating the same amount of food, the food that they gave them, they put on more weight, while the other mice didn't didn't put on as much weight. So gut bacteria is another factor. So the last thing that the article mentioned was instead of eating by calories, they suggest that you try eating. There was 3 different researchers that suggested you try eating by what food is the most satisfying. So the example they gave was having a 300 calorie slice of cheesecake versus having a 300 calorie meal of chicken salad, nuts, olive oil, and roasted vegetables. You've got a lot of different nutrients that are hitting all signals quite nicely. So basically, it's saying that the 300 calories. So like one thing, like overarching thing is the satiety. You'll feel more satisfied by just the different foods that you're having. But this person is suggesting that, so like the cheesecake would be like all sugar and fat, I guess. While if you have the mix of the chicken salad, the nuts, the olive oil, and roasted vegetables, it's got like a whole mixture of, like, you know, omega-3s, like I'm just kind of making this up, and protein and all that stuff. So it's got like a wide mix of stuff. So they're suggesting that there's different signals in your body that sense the amount of, like, you know, protein, fat, whatever. And since that's a more varied meal, it's kind of like hitting all those signals, so your body feels more satisfied. The second thing that they said was they took 2 different groups of teenagers, and they fed one group instant oatmeal, I guess from the packages, and they fed the other group an omelet and fruit. So I assume that they were both the same amount of calories. So they each had this for breakfast. And what they found was that the people who ate just the instant oats ended up eating 650 more calories for lunch than the other group did. And I guess that's kind of for the same reason, where one meal is more a bigger variety, like an omelet, I assume, has stuff in it in addition to the fruit, whereas the instant oatmeal is just like oatmeal, maybe some sugar, just like green carbs. And the last person said that his strategy is to go with the nutrient density of the food, and he suggests that dark green vegetables and legumes have the highest density of nutrients, so they're the ones that feel the most satisfying. So I mean, it's a long article, and I thought it was really good. I was reading it the whole, like, on the bus ride this morning. I was just like reading it. I was like, oh my god, this is great information. So I'm gonna put the link in the description, and I definitely urge you to read it. I just think it's funny that people always talk about, like, health in a sense of, like, weight. Like, I mean, weight is a good indicator of health, but it's not the whole story. That's why these guys kind of went experimented and figured all that stuff out and tested it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Go read the article. If you like this video, hit like. That's how I know you want to see more. If not, alright, thanks for watching.